Perfect. We are continuing on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, page 60 of How It Works. Being convinced, we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, are almost always in a collision with something or somebody. Even though our motives are good, most people try to live on self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show. He is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But, as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only he manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentment, and our self-pity? Lots in there. Let's back it up to that first sentence with the italics, and this is where it's very suggested that we do this program with another alcoholic who has done it before, because some people read this book on their own and then they get to that line and it says, we are at step 3, and they're like, wait, what? Where did step 1 and 2 go? Because prior to this page, the steps are not clearly defined. Past this page, they are very clearly defined. And so if you were to do this on your own, or if you have endeavored to do this on your own, a lot of people get to that line and they're like, well, wait, I'm at step 3. And then, of course, it says, the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. That's very important, and I love the demonstration of the actor. And when it talks in there about, he may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest, and self-sacrificing. Some people would have described me as that, depending on their role in my life. Others would have described me as the second part, mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. So I think some of us can relate to that, where we had those two different characteristic sets, depending on what we wanted and how you were playing in the show. But definitely that one, admitting we might be somewhat at fault. We were sure that other people were more to blame. I was a repeat victim. Life did me wrong each and every time, and if only you would do as I had planned, life would be so much better for me. So, like these two paragraphs, man, oh man, I can relate. Huge, especially, in my relationships or in my workplace, for sure. Then we get to the bottom where we are self-centered and egocentric. I never saw myself as that. I saw myself as that kind, considerate, patient, generous person, right? And I love those different descriptions at the bottom. My favorite is like, it's the person who doesn't vote in the election yet complains about politics. It's like, okay, well, the world's done you wrong, but what did you do? Nothing. Let's open it up for comments on this page. No hands up yet. Anybody? Marianne, nice to see you. You gotta hit, there you go. Oh, let's do it again. Your side. Can you hit your mute, Marianne?
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Marianne Alcoholic. This really described me through, I think, my 20s and 30s completely. And it was a time when I was, like in my 20s where I always had somebody I was on the outs with or was defending myself against. And I thought that was natural. I kind of thought everybody always had somebody in their life that, they were at odds with. There was one moment in time where I was annoyed with all my girlfriends at once, and then I thought to myself briefly, well, maybe it's me. How could it be all of them, at one time? But I got rid of that thought quickly because I didn't want to think about that. And as I got older, I did run around the show, and actually in the jobs I held, I did run the show, and it actually worked for me for quite a while through two different careers, and it wasn't without its problems, but it did work for me in the business world for quite a while. Didn't make me a lot of friends, but everyone at least knew I could do what I was talking about and get it done. On a personal level, though, I was going downhill. So, the program kind of salvaged me from my own worst traits. And it said, and then here on page 61, where it said that we are, the first paragraph, that we are maybe mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. And, today I can actually get really annoyed with somebody and still be able to step back from it and say, I know this is not all of them. They have other traits, and I just need to step back and acknowledge that and not be so totally one way or the other, in my opinions. It's, that kind of rigidity is just, it doesn't allow for the humanity and the forgiveness we need to get by and get through it every day. But thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Janet.
Hi, good morning. So I always like what Kim was talking about, that whole part of the paragraph where he may be considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. Like, I spent a lot of time in another fellowship, and I thought that I was okay, right? I thought that as long as I was just clean and sober, and I just didn't pick up, that I was totally okay. But what started to happen was, because I didn't have this solution, is that I started to, I was patient, and I was modest, and I was self-sacrificing. Like, I had this one girlfriend where it's like she was in this bad relationship, and I would drop everything and go to her and all this stuff, right? And then, but then on the other hand, I was mean. Sorry, baby. Like, I was mean to my sponsees. Like, I was definitely mean. I always said to them, it's like, oh, you want the straight shit? Like, come to me and I'll tell you. Like, you want your shit ripped? Come to me and I'll tell you, because like I will be blunt. I will be, I will be blunt. I'll be honest. You want to hear the truth. Like, I'll come to me and I'll tell you. And honestly, it was because I was so broken inside, right? Like, I hadn't ever done a full set of steps. I was in another fellowship and I got to step 6, right? And then I had a sponsor that after 12 years, she decided to go off to Mexico, get married, and have a drink and relapse. And, it was just like, I didn't have this, right? AA has brought me so much more. And I just like, every time I hear this part on page 61, I'm like, boom, that's me. That was exactly me. And even though I was clean and sober, I was still a mess. So that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Janet. North Van Lees.
Real Alcoholic Lise. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So for those of you who are new and reading this for the first time, that is a little bit confusing because when I teach the book, I'm with people who it's their first meeting and they've got one toe in. What even is alcoholism? Am I an alcoholic? So this is one of the most common readings, and it is at my home group. And how could it possibly be that we just read how it works and then here we are, we're at the end of how it works, that God could and would if he were sought? How could it possibly be that here we are being convinced? We're at step 3. How is that possible? And I explain to people, this is my gleaning after studying the book Drunk and Sober. This is what I've come up with. We do the steps, we read them and how it works, and then we get to this, that God could and would if he were sought. And like, this is me. I'm like, what do you mean we've done all the steps before we get to being convinced? How can I possibly, as somebody who doesn't even know that she has alcoholism, managing businesses, how could I possibly be unmanageable about anything God could and would? How can I even know what God is at that point? And what am I convinced of at this point on page 60? Before we even do the step 3 prayer, like, how is that possible? And then I had to listen to other people who had been through the process. There has to be some sort of experience to have some sort of trust to give it over to the care of God. So thank God there are more instructions here on 61 that we get to. We're not there yet. But there has to be some sort of experience to even have the willingness necessary. So that's what I wanted to share about step 3.
Thank you so much, Lise. And I just want to say a little bit more as well, especially for those new who might be doing this for their first time, based on the mistakes I made my first few times, where step 3 reads, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So I'd be like, yep, I make a decision, check, right? But where it says here in this first paragraph we read, it says, just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? Because it's an action. So it's not just a check mark. So this is where we're saying, like, the first thing we do is we have to realize that a life run on self-will can hardly be a success. And that's what we're discussing now. And then we're going to talk more as we go. Vicki.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Vicki. I'm an alcoholic. Just to comment real quickly on the actor part. This is my first time going through the big book with my sponsor, and we are fortunately doing all this stuff I'm fortunately doing all this stuff right now with my sponsor. So this is an awesome supplement for me. But just to comment real quickly on the actor, she had me go through and circle every place where it says he or his or something that refers to the actor, and replace it with my name and read it that way, which was pretty cool because, rather than just looking at it from the third person, reading it through with my name inserted, or or saying her instead of him. Kind of was a neat way to open my eyes a little bit and look at it that way from a first person perspective, which made a little bit more of an impact for me, going through it for the first time. So that's it.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah, good to note too that if this is your first time going through this, please ask questions. Put your hand up. It's not just for people who comment who know what we're already talking about. It's to make sure you guys have it clear on your end too if it is your first time. And like when you're talking about an actor in the play, I always think of those movies where the lead actor takes control. And you have to remember in a play there's so many roles other than the actor, right? There's the director, the producer, the writer. Yvonne.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. I'm an alcoholic. This is not my first time through, but I just had you see the light bulb up there? With this, to me, is explaining my unmanageability. Just the emotions that go from extreme, and the egotistical, selfish, dishonest, and the patient and generous. And I have underlined, like she said, is Yvonne not really a self-seeker even when she's trying to be kind? Yes, and I'm doing this act of kindness to get something out of it, rather than just doing it for doing it. Not everything I did, but a lot of things I did. So that just, I guess, this just struck me as this is my unmanageability. This is my crazy right here. So with that, I will pass. Thank you.
Thank you. And this has even caused me problems in my sobriety where I used to be that self-seeker like Yvonne was talking about. So then when I ask for help in my sobriety, it sometimes twangs where I'm like, am I doing old behaviors? And like, am I self-seeking, asking for this help, or am I manipulating? So it's funny how it can pop up sometimes. Becca.
Hi, I'm Becca. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for doing these meetings. These are wonderful. Going into reading this the first time I read it, I was really fearful. I think coming in, I was just scared. Like, I was just scared of everything at that point, and it made me really confused and delusional and paranoid. Which made my perception of life very skewed. A lot of the things that I thought were right, but I overfelt them, I guess. Everything was either really scary or really happy. I didn't mix emotions. They were all just one really fast emotion all at once, and then another emotion, then another emotion. So when I was reading about this, I realized that I was really scared of my higher power. And not just my higher power, but forgiveness and step 9. Because I was thinking about steps ahead, and I shouldn't have been. I was getting scared and trying to plan it out, and I'm sure my alcoholic mind was trying to get me to get scared and run. But instead, I tried these different tools. Just like it was mentioned, instead of using God in the beginning, I used universe to kind of ease my mind's vision of God, because I had a really bad resentment of religion coming in. Not God itself, but religion. And so I had to get through that in 2 and 3. And then through each step after that, my God would always be there. I'd always be able to fall back on my God. But I had to really look at my resentments and my fears in step 2 and 3 in order to prepare myself and know that God would always be there, will always be there no matter what, which is nice because now I don't have to look at things in fear except for the drink. I'm really scared of that one first drink. But now I get to look at my intentions of things and what my intention is, what my true intention of something is, the foundational piece. And I can start from there. And that's how I try and live every day now. I don't only want to be sober every day now. Like at first, I really just wanted not to drink. just wanted not to pick it up. And now I want to live a sober, happy, healthy life. And that's progressed from just not wanting to die and coming in. And now I get to look at my intentions of things and want to be better through that instead of being fearful of what I'm doing and if I'm hurting someone. I know if I'm being true, honest, and good, and I'm not harming myself or anyone else, and my self-speech and the way I talk to myself is loving and caring, my intention is good, and everything will be okay as long as I trust my higher power. Thank you.
Thank you so much. MJ. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, hi everyone. I haven't been back to this meeting in a while. I decided to come today. Yeah, that part about I was always in collision with everything and everybody. And I always wondered why. Could never understand why I couldn't keep friendships, you know. And of course, I did a lot of blaming the other person, but it confused me. And when I read this, I went, yes, that's me. I do that. I'm in collision with everybody all the time, it seems like. And I'm the common denominator, you know. And then the other part about what I would, when I wanted my way, what I'd start to do first is be pleasing and considerate and patient and generous. I'd try that tactic first, and when that didn't work, I'd get mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. So when I read that, I thought, oh, yeah, I start out trying to be really nice to get my own way, and then if it doesn't work, I get mean. So I super related to this when I first read this. Thanks.
Absolutely, me too. I go either way, whichever way gets me what I want, right? Jeanette.
Hi everyone, Jeanette Alcoholic. You know, the parts that really glared out at me was the wants to run any life run in his own way, you know, and that was me. I'll do it my way. And if things didn't work out, he begins to think life doesn't treat him right. I got to play the victim role. And, you know, I realize now that that is not a very becoming role to take on, although I played it for many, many years because of what I called, you know, unfair life events. And that's all I have to share.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. We'll do one more before we gotta go. Let's go to Trish. Gotta hit you on mute. There you go.
Good. Thanks. It's popping up somewhere else. Hi, I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. I just think this is like perfect divine timing for this page today because I am the director of a company that I'm trying to fold up and a director. I didn't even know what a director was in a company, but because it's in sort of my hands, I'm trying to do the honest thing, the fair thing, and the right thing. I don't want to sacrifice, but it's just giving my power away to the wrong people instead of giving my power to God to look after me, because that's the hardest thing. I really have trouble giving my power away to a male that I've figured that I was victimized by for a long, long time. But now is the time that I give it to God, and whatever is meant to be will be. And it's a tough one, but I'm so glad to listen to the shares, and I'm just learning so much from all this. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much. To be time conscious, we're going to keep going. Top of 62, second paragraph. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Highlighted, underlined, starred, and circled. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we inevitably find that sometime in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Many of us have had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own willpower. We had to have God's help. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are His agents. He is the Father, and we are His children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed for freedom. Tons and tons of great nuggets on that page. Starting with the one that is probably the most circled and highlighted and starred in my book, and that is selfishness and self-centeredness. That we think is the root of our troubles. And until we see that, we are not going to be able to smash that. Then we go that we are driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. So there we go, right? Like when we move on chapter, that's going to make a lot more sense. But you know, when we really see the root of it, it's fear or self-delusion. You know, the story we tell ourselves, we default to that negative story each and every time. Self-pity, well, that can be masked as depression. You know, oh, I'm depressed. Well, depression can be a symptom of self-pity. And then we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Oh, shoot. You mean I'm not a victim? Whoopsies. And my favorite, and probably the whole purpose of this, is that we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So the root of all of our evils and troubles is me. And then it says here, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. There often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Now that is also found on page 14, and it says a price has to be paid. It's the destruction of self-centeredness. We must turn in all things to the Father of light. So there's a big theme there. It's mentioned twice so far, and we're only on page 62. So then we break down that decision we're going to make. Remember, we're making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. And here it says, we decided thereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are His agents, He is the Father, and we are His children. So He is the teacher. He is our director. He's the one who's going to guide us through life, because our guidance has gotten us here. So we're going to have some new guidance. And then another one you might want to underline and circle, and it's another good little nugget. It says, most good ideas are simple. Keep it simple. Whatever other adjective you want to put behind it. I always love it when people come to me and their plan is longer than a sentence. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good plan. Let me know how that works out. Most ideas, good ideas, are simple. If your idea is really complicated and you need a lot of sentences to get your point across, it's probably not a good idea. Lise?
Hey, hi. yes, still alcoholic, still Lisa. And all I really want to speak to on this, in this paragraph, I feel like we lost page 61. Did I miss that reading?
No, we did it.
We did it, okay. Because I felt like there were some pretty important things like that I would like to just say that, you know, what usually happens, the show doesn't come off well. Well, I'm not the director in our family of origin. My brother David is, and I grew up being directed and corrected. So my whole life was basically based on self-pity because I wasn't doing anything right. And I just wasn't. And to this day, I still get corrected. But when I keep God at the center of this, knowing that David always has my highest good at his focal point, even though he uses tones that I hear as mean, I still have to know that he has my back because he's my baby big brother and he does. And when you're being directed by directors, it's kind of hard to believe that there's something bigger than human. But then enter the father of David and capital F, my dad. I was born from atheists. So I didn't have a God example of goodness and respect at home. So I had to find that in the rooms of AA. I did. And then through that kindness, I found God because God is love. God is not scolding. And I just really wanted to say that when you're directed your whole life by people, it's hard to give it over to a God of your misunderstanding. And I've always been pathologically selfish until sobering. And until I could see that above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. Until I usurped my own will, my human will, where I was taught where there's a will, there's a way. The only thing I couldn't will myself out of is alcoholism. I had to ask God's help. And when I did, and was humble enough to ask God's help, the invisible, then I was able to stop drinking. I couldn't stop drinking until people failed me in the rooms, and then I really needed God. So thanks for being here for me, Whiskey and Kimberly, and everybody else listening.
Thanks, Lise. Jennifer. Hang on. There we go. Jennifer, did we get you unmuted? Hit your button. There you go.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm alcoholic. I haven't been on the meeting for probably about a week, but I really enjoy this meeting. So I just wanted to share that, you know, when I first came to AA, I could not see myself as a self-centered person because I felt I was very selfless because I was always involved in many things that serve other people. But I have to come to the realization, or I came to the realization that I was self-centered in those behaviors because I did them for the benefit of other people complimenting me, other people asking me, oh, how do you do it all? And it was all based on really selfishness because although I was helping other people in a sense, I was really only doing it, not only, but a big part of it was for my own ego, you know, and became, you know, almost like an addiction in its own way because I could never say no to anyone. And it wasn't always to help them. It was because I liked to be thanked and I liked that feeling. And so I had to learn how to give up a lot of stuff so that I would have more time to spend on myself and so I'd be with myself and not be busy and learn about myself because I was only doing those things to kind of distract myself from what I didn't like about myself. So I just wanted to share that. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And now to Jen.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I love this. I don't know. The first time I read it, I was like, I don't know if that's really me. But it's wonderful just reading it. You know, this will be like my third time going over this, and or maybe my fourth, I guess. But I just, I don't know. I love that whoever shared about the writing in your own name with the actor and doing that. I realized that Jen's way, like to say Jen's is like, it's just another 4-letter word. But that, yeah, like doing all this stuff, I was very much a control-y, but very self-righteously and very sweetly controlling things, so that I used good will to justify the full picture. So like there may be a little tidbit of goodness in there that I'm doing, but a lot of it is just really to justify the whole thing. Like basically, I can drink as long as I'm still a good person, as long as I still do good things. But the things I was doing weren't wholeheartedly great, and they were. It was really, yeah, like I made people feel bad and guilty, and I have to save the day, and the martyr here. It's just ridiculous. So it's good to find through this program the way to truly be, humbly doing God's will instead of Jen's that 4-letter way word. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you so much. Janice.
Hi, I'm sharing a computer with Darlene, so I put my hand up for
I'm Darlene.
Hi, Darlene.
I couldn't make a connection on my computer. I have 49 days today, so and I've been here before, but I've never gone through the big book like this. So I'm sure I have all those character traits, the good and the bad, that are listed here. And I've used them all to try to control people. And, I made myself the queen baby, I think you call it. And it worked some for a while. And then sure enough, people did turn on me and realize, who I really was. But this morning I was speaking with a small group of people that I speak with, women, and I actually was talking pretty much about this one line. So I'm kind of asking a question here. Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? So, with the world the way it is now and not having any power really to speak of to make changes in that, when I go out into the world, I try to be kind to everyone, regardless, male, female, any color, it doesn't matter, children, adults, old people, I just try to be kind. And does that make me feel good? Yeah, it does make me feel good. So am I a self-seeker? Is that wrong? That's where my head is at right now. So that's my question. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, for me, and I can only speak of my experience, I like to lead in love and kindness to show God's love. So then it's not Kim seeking satisfaction or Kim seeking praise for being kind, because Kim used to like to do that. I would give you the shirt off my back because I wanted you to be like, Kim gave me the shirt off her back. Now I do it because I have God's love in my heart and I want to share God's love and light. So my kindness now comes from God, not from Kim. That's my personal experience. Flo. Gotta hit it from your side. I don't know what's going on today. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Flo. I'm an alcoholic. When I first went through the big book, the line that on this page that always jumped out at me is, so our troubles we think are basically of our own making. I spent my whole life blaming everybody else for the rotten things that happened to me. And it was quite a rude awakening to have to become accountable for my own shit. Anyway, that's all I wanted to throw in there. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Oopsies. Justine.
Hey everyone, Justine, still an alcoholic. This is my first time being in this big book study, but I did read over that chapter quite a bit. And for me, that was something hard to digest, right? Like
because I did think of myself as, kind of victimized, and things were all bad. But, as I started getting older, like, I did realize I was super selfish, and I was doing these things for self. Like, I didn't think of anyone else. I didn't think, that really anyone else had problems but me. And it's kind of sad to admit that about myself, but it's true. And today, like, I love that line. I can't like quote it perfectly, but it's, all these problems are our making, and it's selfishness and self-pity, I think it is, that has to be removed. But for me, like, I don't know, I'm not feeling like I'm living a selfish life right now. And like, even just in the last 8 months of not living a selfish life, I've noticed all of these beautiful changes. And it is really about, it's like giving back. It's not being selfish. It's doing things for other people, regardless, like whatever, just being good and just doing things for other people. And that's helped me out of like really, really bad days, like getting out of self and doing something, being selfless. And I think like that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. And that's one of the huge changes I've noticed now that I'm not doing things for myself, and doing things for others. Things have gotten like 360 better. So I just wanted to add that, and I will keep coming back.
Thank you so much, Justine. Marianne.
Hi, Marianne, alcoholic. The last sentence where it says, this concept was the keystone of the new and triumph arch through which we pass to freedom. Is that tied in with the page 47 and 56 with the cornerstones?
Oh, hang on one sec. So the keystone, hang on. Let me just make sure I'm getting it right. Because I always get it right. Okay, so the keystone is the middle. The cornerstones are next to it. Right? Anybody want to help me with that? Joe is like a master of the stones. He does it perfectly, but I'm like a diagram girl. Yes, the keystone is the one in the middle, and then the cornerstones are the ones that hold it up. We need to do a pictogram. Oh, wait. I got one. So we got keystone. And then we've got cornerstones. Hang on, ladies. This is really, really slow arts and crafts. All right. I'll put it on the chat, on the Facebook page. Let's do one more. Marianne.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic member of Golden Mile. My name's Marianne. Great to see you all. I find these paragraphs a great reference point when I live in inventory and looking into myself. I can say to myself, "Oh my gosh, Marianne," and pick out the actor in me and trying to organize everything. Or pick out when I'm bitching about something, the retired businessman. Oh, there you go again, the retired, and being all judgy. And it just helps me get to a quick reference point of what needs to be done, and then use the rest of the steps to get over these humps. Because I always have to remember that this cunning, baffling, powerful illness of mine is going to be there. And this book is how I navigate through life. So I love these paragraphs because I can pick myself out in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Where did you go? There you are. I was trying to find you to mute you again. Sorry. All right, ladies, we're going to keep going. Sorry to those that we didn't get to. Whoopsies, wrong button. Of course, messing that stuff up today. All right, so let's go to page 63, top of the page. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things have followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could last abandon ourselves utterly to him. Alrighty, so that's where we stop on that page. So at the top, I love it. We have a new employer. We work for God. We serve him. We are not interested in ourselves, and like a job, when we have an employer, our job provides us all the things we need if we show up and we do the work. So there it says, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. That is a Post-it note right here on my computer, so I see it every day. I work for God. Before I open my computer and do my personal work for my business, I remember I work for God. When I keep him close and I perform his work well, everything I need is provided for me, and in a big, glorious way. So when we do that, we are less and less interested in ourselves, and we see how we can serve others, how we can help others. And then the more we do it, the more practice we get, the better it is. And then we move into that, we are at step 3. That is the step 3 prayer. I said that prayer every morning for the 8 months after doing my set of steps this way, just to remind myself, just to set me up for my day. And of course it says we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready. That implies you should have a period of meditation, that we could last abandon ourselves utterly to him. So this is us making a decision to put God in charge of our lives. We're going to be a servant of God. I have there, that is my 3rd stop fail. So we need to pause. I always stop here and I ask my prospect or whomever I'm working with to meditate on that. Go meditate. Make sure you're ready to take this step. Then we do that prayer and we move forward. Again, Susan, we've talked about the surrender as to concede. The best example is the war. So the First World War, the Germans surrendered, which means they thought they could still win, but they had just given up. Whereas if you concede defeat, you are out of options. So I don't refer to it as surrender. We refer to it as turning our will over. We're serving God, and we're coming out of self. So this is where we're going to stop today. Of course, we're going to discuss it, but that is your homework today, is to meditate. Make sure you're ready to take this step. Let's start with Bev. You got to unmute yourself today. I don't know what's going on today. Is it working?
Because I can't do it.
There you go.
To do it. Okay.
Got it.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Grateful to be here. I love this meeting. And this page is one of my favorite pages in the entire big book. I have written in really big letters at the top of the page, these are the third step promises. And I like to especially present it that way to my new sponsees, because a lot of people come into this program thinking when the 9 step promises are read at every meeting, oh my God, I'll never get there. Oh my God, they are maybe not achievable for me. So I make sure I let them know, and we read through these very carefully, that there are many promises throughout the big book. And if we, like Kim was talking about, stay close to him, keep him close and perform his work well. And I don't always know maybe what the next right thing to do is, but I know what not the next wrong thing would be. So I know what not to do next. And then Kim was talking about the third step prayer. I love that prayer. One of my meetings that I go to regularly twice a week here, we end with that prayer. And there are several meetings here in Richmond that end with that prayer. And I not only said it in the beginning of my sobriety, but I still say it today every day, because it pretty much covers everything. And I just feel like relieve me of the bondage of self are some of the strongest and most important words in the book. Because if I can get out of my own way, then I can let God work through me. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And yeah, when I first did that, I have written in the margins, like top right across step 3 promises. The gentlemen that I do the other big book study, they say those aren't the step 3 promises. That's the promises of the program. I'm like, oh, it's the step 3 promises. I agree with Bev. But I just have it in the side bit there when I say, you know, keep God close and serve him well. It says be kind and carry God's message of love and hope, right? That's pretty simple. Annette, I got you. Yeah, you're unmuted.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
I think you're able to do me. Okay, thanks. I'm glad to see everyone. Kim, this meeting is fantastic, but I always had a problem right here is we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter, because I always believe there's such a thing as healthy fear. So I'm in conflict with that in my head. But because of what we read, I mean, through my alcoholism, active alcoholism, I can remember the fear being I wasn't going to get what I want. And I thought the solution was let me do a few shots of vodka. You know, and it's just like, I'm getting like goosebumps about just reading this, because it's like really not being self-centered about myself, but giving myself to God. And like, what is really God's will for me? Like this morning, I just happened to, I'm Catholic, so I do practice my faith, but it's like the rosary came on, the EWTN, and I'm like, I used to do that all the time. So in my head, I'm like, I could feel like being pulled to thinking about having a drink. And I just stayed in meditation, like you said, we need to do here. So that's very helpful. So just, I'm just grateful that I'm sober today and that I didn't pick up and that the thought is now gone. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Annette. Oops. All right. And Jenny D.
Oh, you unmuted me.
I
Okay.
did. I don't know. It's half the time it's working and
Oh, hi, I'm Jenny. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Kim. I had to miss 2 meetings last week, and boy, did I miss you guys. I caught up on YouTube. I laid on my couch. I closed my eyes. And as I heard you sharing different people that I've come to know here, I could see your faces. It was really lovely. I want to just talk a tiny bit. Okay, there's 2 things I want to say. I'm only going to say one, and I've been sort of praying here on which one to say. I want to tell you a beautiful miracle that happened, step 3. How step 3 saved me. When I was sober 3 months, I went to a retreat at an abbey out in Mission. You know, I think you know the one probably, Kim. I went to that retreat, and on the first night, on the Friday night, I was sober 3 months, and it occurred to me, oh my God, I don't belong here. I don't fit in here. Nobody likes me. I have to get out of here. I packed my bag. I got in my car. I drove down the lane and the gate was locked and I couldn't get out. So I turned around, came back to my room, and I had my big book, same big book I have now. And I just said, okay, God, if you're here, because I didn't believe in God, just show me what you want me to see. And I flipped through the pages and it opened on page 63. And I looked at that prayer and I actually took a pen. I'm going to show you this piece of paper. I still have it in my book. I wrote out the step 3 prayer. It says on the top, January 25th, 1991. And I wrote out the big book prayer and I still have it all raggedy in my book. And I realized, relieve me of the bondage of self meant stop thinking about what everybody thinks about you. Just come here and meet me, meaning God. I didn't meet God that weekend, but he was there. And I just, whenever I read the step 3 prayer, and I do as part of my daily thing too, just because it had such an impact on me, that was the page God turned. Oh, sorry, Dolly. That was the page God opened for me in my book. And and I will never let this go. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I wrote it out and I taped it to my bathroom mirror. And every morning when I brushed my teeth, that's what I would do. And then eventually I added the step 7 in there too. Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm an alcoholic. This is my first time at this meeting, and it's wonderful. Thank you. I wanted to make just one comment on the step 3 prayer, which I said every day for many years in early recovery, because even, I took away the alcohol and I still had lots and lots of problems. But the prayers I use as a tool, line by line, and certainly it relieved me of the bondage of self. And I thought about how I always try to get in the middle of things. And then when I get to the line, take away my difficulties. Every morning, I would think about, what are my difficulties today? Oftentimes it was a character defect of resentment at somebody. And I would pray for my new employer, for God, to help me with that particular difficulty. And that's how I used that prayer. And then I would continue, of course, with the victory over them may bear witness to those that I would help by power I love in my way of life. And that's all I wanted to share on this one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Leslie, sorry.
Hi, Leslie, alcoholic. Sorry I came in late. I like that we have a new employer. I was thinking about the cornerstone. Oh my gosh, so many things that were coming in my head there. The one was, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. And one of the things that, you get a little fearful about the hereafter. I mean, I'm one of those ones where, okay, should I get buried? Should I get cremated? Like these kind of thoughts go through my head. And I mean, after you're gone, it doesn't really matter what happens to the old bones, I guess, is one kind of a funny way of looking at it. But the more spiritual way of looking at it is to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And for anybody who's got any fear of that, the things of the world, they kind of cloud out what his presence, So to just be mindful of his presence will help us. Well, it helps me to realize that I don't have to worry about all the other stuff that's going on around me. Just to stay focused on him. And I'm really glad that I got in here and got to listen to it all. So that's all I got to say right now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And finish us off, Lise.
Oh, this is one of my favorite pages in the entire book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I am a real alcoholic. My name is Lisa Gill. And when I sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. They may not look circumstantially like they've been in my favor, but God is doing for me what I could not do for myself, because I stepped out of management and with depth said, I need help. After the decision came, I couldn't make the decision without understanding the doctor's opinion, without being in the we, without wanting to know Bill's story, without wanting a solution. I got to this place. In Hebrew, it's kavanah, which means depth of prayer. In English, it says serenity. And with kavanah, I opened my arms and all sorts of remarkable things happened. God is. Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you, God.
Thank you so much, Lise. So just to reiterate our homework is, before we meet again on Wednesday, please take some time and find a place and meditate and make sure we thought well before taking this step, making sure we are ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to Him. Then we are now at step 3. And then say that lovely prayer and welcome God into your life. And we shall see you all again on Wednesday, where we will continue.